Ah, puberty. So Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix is the fifth movie in the Harry Potter series, and this one was directed by David Yates, who would go on to do the rest of the series, as well as Legend of Tarzan this year and the Fantastic Beasts movie that are coming out in November. And David Yates brought some interesting direction to the Harry Potter series. Some of it worked, some of it didn't. And one thing that I noticed rewatching this movie about a week ago is that I really loved the first half of this movie even more than I liked the second half, which is interesting because, you know, the second half has the whole Department of Mysteries battle, and that's really cool. But what I liked about that first half, and really Order of the Phoenix in general, is it shows bigger picture stuff happening. I like seeing that whole build-up with Harry, Ron, and Hermione being thrust into the adult world, and basically everyone telling them, like, alright, you're not kids anymore, this is real world stuff happening now. And the way that this movie starts off in the very first scene is great. It establishes the feel for the entire movie, because this movie is much more of a psychological battle than it is a physical battle. Like in Goblet of Fire, there was psychological stuff happening, but it was mainly about Harry having to battle through these tasks and ultimately battling Lord Voldemort in the end. In this movie, Harry's dealing with the post-traumatic stress that all of that induced on him. Like, he's still having night terrors about Voldemort and Cedric and the graveyard, and he's not given any news of what has come since then. Like, Sirius, Ron, Hermione, they're writing to him, but all they're saying is like, alright, just bear with us, we can't say much, but we'll explain it all soon. And Harry's like, I was the one that took on the greatest dark wizard of all time, and you're telling me to just sit here in my terrible aunt and uncle's house. So Harry is not the same kid that he was in the last 4 movies. And in that first scene, Harry and Dudley, they're attacked by Dementors, and that's a really cool scene because I feel like that was the first time we saw dark magic come out in the human world. Or the Muggle world, I guess. They're all humans. Except for the centaurs, and the goblins, and the giants, and the wizards are humans. Like, we have seen magic interact with the Dursleys previous times. Hagrid came in Philosopher's Stone, Dobby showed up in Chamber of Secrets, Aunt Marge flew away in Prisoner of Azkaban, but that was all like fun, whimsical magic. But this is the first time that you see like dark forces attacking Harry when he's completely helpless at the Dursleys' house. It just gave the whole movie a little bit more gravity starting out like that. Ultimately, because he used underage magic even though he was attacked by Dementors, Harry was expelled from Hogwarts, but Dumbledore has persuaded Fudge to let Harry plead his case in court. So some people come to the Dursleys' house and come to rescue Harry. Mad-Eye Moody's there, Nymphadora Tonks is there, Kingsley Shacklebolt's there, and they're all part of this group called the Order of the Phoenix. It's the secret society that Dumbledore formed when they were first fighting Voldemort, and now the Order has reformed with a couple new recruits to battle Voldemort and his Death Eaters. So they take Harry to the headquarters of the Order of the Phoenix, which is number 12 Grimmauld Place, also known as Sirius Black's house. Harry is reunited with the Weasleys and Hermione and Sirius, and it's this nice reunion. However, as you'd expect, all that stuff that Harry just had to deal with by himself in the summer, that all comes out, and he argues with Ron and Hermione about it. But then they give him some answers. Basically what's happening is that Fudge does not believe that Voldemort has returned. He thinks that Dumbledore's crazy, that this is just a cry for attention from Harry, so he's using the Daily Prophet to smear their names as much as he can. And I love that dinner scene when you find all this stuff out, because again, it feels like the kids that we grew up with in Sorcerer's Stone are now becoming adults. They're being thrown into the real world. Sirius and Lupin are giving Harry the whole lowdown of what's happened so far, all the stuff with Fudge, as well as the fact that they're trying to keep up with the stuff that Voldemort's doing, and Voldemort might be after something that he didn't have last time, some sort of secret weapon that'll give him the edge over the Order. Ultimately, Harry gets his name cleared, he goes back to Hogwarts, and he finds the stuff that he encountered at the Ministry and through the Daily Prophet, that whole slandering of his name, that's only starting now that he's at Hogwarts. Of course, Malfoy's gonna do anything he can to ruin Harry's name, and then Seamus Finnegan, one of Harry's fellow Gryffindors, he's also not taking Harry's side. So even some of Harry's best friends from the last 4 years are kind of looking at him like, you're making all this up, aren't you? Because none of them once believed that Voldemort's back. Ultimately, that all stems from Fudge. And this movie does a good job of showing the way the media can just skew certain things and make you believe a certain way. So Order of the Phoenix introduces a couple of big players in the Harry Potter series that are going to be important for the rest of the movies to follow. First one being Luna Lovegood. She's this really weird, awkward kid at Hogwarts. She's a year younger than Harry. She has these weird radish earrings. Her father is the editor of this really weird newspaper called The Quibbler. And she believes in all these weird, made-up, magical creatures. And Harry's able to connect with her in this movie because Harry is feeling so alone in this time. And Luna has been alone basically since she started going to Hogwarts, so they're able to bond over their mutual loneliness. There's a cool scene when Harry walks into the Forbidden Forest and he sees Luna feeding these creatures called Thestrals. Thestrals kind of look like hippogriffs, but like the skeleton versions of hippogriffs. And Thestrals can only be seen by people that have seen death. So Harry saw Cedric die in the graveyard, Luna saw her mom die before she came to Hogwarts, so she's always been able to see the Thestrals. You also find out in the book that Neville can see Thestrals because he saw his uncle die, but Harry and Luna, they're able to bond over this weird anomaly that they're both experiencing. And Luna's one of those few people that does believe Harry. She believes his entire story, so Harry takes some comfort in that fact as well. And one of the other main characters introduced in this movie, Oh, Dolores Umbridge. This is without a doubt the most hated character in Harry Potter. Like, people hate this chick more than they hate Voldemort. She's this really slimy, toad-faced new professor. She's not even a professor. She works for the Ministry. She mainly reports to Fudge. She's the new Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher at Hogwarts, yet she's not actually teaching them defensive spells. All the stuff she's teaching them is theory. It's all in books. She's not even allowing them to use their wands. And the way that she walks onto the scene in her first lesson, it's like, you know those teachers, the subs that you had in high school, or maybe not even subs, maybe just regular teachers, when you're looking at them and you're just thinking like, you should be teaching kindergartners. Just the way that she collects herself. She's all like, good morning, children. This morning, open your books to chapter 13. It's like, nobody talks like that, especially if you're talking to teenagers. That's not the way you talk. She just has that very like uppity, I'm so much better than you type of personality, but it's in a very passive aggressive way, so it really gets under your skin. That passive aggressiveness kind of goes away and just turns into being aggressive later in the movie, but for now, we still hate her. And in that lesson, she gives Harry detention, so Harry goes to that detention, and she has Harry writing some lines. She has Harry writing, I must not tell lies. Pretty simple. She gives Harry a special quill. She doesn't give him any ink. And so Harry's like, all right, whatever. So he starts writing and the words appear even though there's no ink. Surprise, guess where that ink's coming from? It's coming from Harry's own blood. So the words, I must not tell lies, are being like etched into Harry's hand as he's writing them, causing the message to sink in, as Umbridge calls it. I'm telling you, dude, this chick is evil. So Voldemort's out there, no one's believing Harry, and Umbridge isn't teaching them anything in order to fight those dark forces that are most definitely coming for them. So Harry, Ron, and Hermione, they take matters into their own hands. They form a secret society called Dumbledore's Army. One thing that was kind of omitted from the Goblet of Fire movie is that when Harry was training for the tasks, particularly the maze, is that he got way more advanced in magic. He was looking up all these spells. That's how he learned to stun people, as well as a bunch of other combative spells. So he takes all that knowledge, and the people that believe Harry, the people that think Voldemort has returned, they join Dumbledore's army. And Harry is basically like their defense against the dark arts teacher. So he's teaching them all of this crazy new stuff so that they can be ready for when Voldemort attacks. Think of it as like a mini offshoot of the Order of the Phoenix, but in Hogwarts. And you can tell the person that is taking this the most serious is Neville Longbottom. This movie fleshed out Neville a lot more than we've had in previous movies. Like, for the most part, he's just comedic relief. And you did have that one scene in Philosopher's Stone when he stands up to Ron, Harry, and Hermione, and ultimately Dumbledore rewards that, and that's how they win the House Cup. So you can tell that Neville has greatness in him, but we haven't really seen it up until now. You find out in this movie the reason that Neville is so motivated is because his parents were Aurors, just like Mad-Eye Moody. They were some of the best Aurors. And when Voldemort fell, Bellatrix Lestrange, who you also meet in this movie, she's another big player for the rest of the series, she used the Cruciatus Curse, which is the torture curse, on Neville's parents until their minds basically just turned into jelly. So they're permanent residents of St. Mungo's. They barely even recognize their own son. And so because of that and the stuff that happened to them, Neville is so determined to make the most out of this Dumbledore's army. And ultimately, Neville was robbed of the same childhood Harry was robbed of. Yeah, he still had his parents around, but he had to go visit them in the hospital the whole time. They barely recognize him. And that whole arc culminates in Deathly Hallows, but this is the first movie when you're really like, all right, Neville's gonna go places. Now, where some of my issues lie with this movie, it's mainly in the second half of the movie. Like I said, that first half is so cool. It's nice seeing this little rebellion in Hogwarts that Harry, Ron, and Hermione are starting. All the stuff with the Order of the Phoenix is great. The psychological stuff that's going on in Harry's head, that's all really cool. But pretty much from the point that they get back to Hogwarts from Christmas till the end of the movie, it feels very exposition heavy. It almost feels like they just had to hit these certain story beats until they get to the end of the movie. Rewatching the scene with Grop, it was kind of a mixed bag for me. Like, I like seeing the scene because I like Grop and he's a cool character, but the scene in general just kind of felt out of place. Maybe it's because right before this, Umbridge had just found out about Dumbledore's army, and Dumbledore has fled the school, so now Umbridge is headmistress. And the characters are pretty much in their lowest low in this time. So Harry, Ron, and Hermione, they're out sulking on this bridge. Well, Harry's sulking, Ron and Hermione are trying to encourage him. And it's this kind of sad scene, and then all of a sudden Hagrid's in the corner and he's all like, psst, Harry, Ron, I gotta show you something. Check this out. It's gonna be cool. But I do like how now Hagrid has a family member just like Harry has Sirius. And it ties back into the themes of the movie, which is feeling alone, but also having your friends and comfort in that time. So it's a nice scene. It just felt a little out of place. And then my other big issue with this movie is remembering Goblet of Fire when I said I think they made the best possible adaptation they could have given their cinematic limitations. I don't feel like they did that with Order of the Phoenix, because Order of the Phoenix, not counting Deathly Hallows Part 2, because obviously that's a book split into 2 parts, this is the shortest movie, and it's based off the longest book. This movie only clocks in about 2 hours and 20 minutes, I think. And you feel that. It feels significantly shorter than Goblet of Fire, so why didn't they just add another 20 minutes to the movie? Because they skipped out on a lot of cool stuff in the book. Some of the things would have only been like a 2 to 3 minute scene difference. For instance, the Room of Requirement, that's the room that Dumbledore's army practices in. Basically, it's this room on the 7th floor. You walk past it and think like, all right, I need a room that does this, the door will show up and the room will do that for you. In the movie, Neville kind of just stumbles upon it by accident. In the book, it's actually Dobby that tells Harry, hey, there's this cool room in Hogwarts that'll do anything that you want. And granted, Dobby wasn't in the Goblet of Fire movie either, even though he was in the book. So just have one scene before that when, say, Harry's alone in the common room and Dobby's cleaning up. He's like, oh, hey, Harry, what's up? Yeah, I work at the kitchens now. And then he can just call Dobby later and be like, hey, Dobby, do you know about this room? And Dobby will be like, yeah, totally, I do. So, you know, just 2 to 3 minute different scenes. Another scene I wish they added in is halfway through this movie, Arthur Weasley gets attacked by Voldemort's snake, Nagini. Harry finds out about it, he tells Dumbledore. So Harry and the Weasleys, they spend most of Christmas at St. Mungo's, the hospital. There's this one scene when they're walking around, they encounter Gilderoy Lockhart, and that's kind of a funny scene. Maybe they couldn't do that because they didn't have Kenneth Branagh, but that's not really the scene you need in there. In the book, this is when Harry and the Weasleys, and I think Hermione's there, but I'm not sure, this is when they all find out about Neville's parents because they end up walking into that ward that Neville's parents are in. I like that scene better than it is in the movie because in the movie, it's just Neville telling Harry, and Neville voluntarily tells Harry. In the book, the kids all wander into a scene that they did not expect to run into. They didn't expect to see Neville there. They didn't know anything that happened with his parents. And it kind of gives you that gut punch of just like, oh, yeah, this is what we're fighting for. This is the effect that Voldemort can have on families. So again, maybe that scene will be a little bit longer. Let's say 5 minutes. 5 minutes in St. Mungo's. So just add in those small scenes and that would have just given the movie a little more flavor. Even if they're not in the theatrical cut, just do the Lord of the Rings, Peter Jackson 4-hour extended cuts. And I'm sure Harry Potter fans would watch them. So I just don't get why they didn't do that with Order of the Phoenix. But now we're basically at the end of the movie. Harry and Snape, they've been taking these lessons in occlumency. You find out earlier in the movie that Harry and Voldemort, they have this connection where Harry can hear and think the stuff that Voldemort's hearing and thinking. And Voldemort's able to use that connection to his advantage. So Snape tells Harry, you gotta block that. And that's why they do occlumency. It's this technique where you can block people from getting into your head. Kind of like in Force Awakens when Kylo Ren and Rey were having that forced mind battle. It's the same thing. But anyways, Harry's getting these visions that Voldemort has Sirius captured. He captured him in this room in the Ministry called the Department of Mysteries. Harry's been dreaming about this place for months, but now that Voldemort has Sirius captured there, Harry gets Ron, Hermione, Neville, Ginny, and Luna, and they all go to rescue Sirius. Only it turns out that Voldemort was making up those images and putting them in Harry's head, so Voldemort is just lured Harry into a trap. They're in this room in the Department of Mysteries that has a bunch of prophecies. That's what Voldemort was ultimately after, because there's one in there about Harry and Voldemort, and prophecies can only be retrieved by the person about whom it's written. So Voldemort tries to lure Harry out so Harry can grab the prophecy. The kids get ambushed by Death Eaters. Lucius Malfoy's there, Bellatrix Lestrange is there, and the kids put up a pretty good fight for the most part, until they get captured in this room that has this archway sticking up in the middle. It's this really weird, mysterious archway. I believe that was the Ministry's like execution chamber, so the veil takes you into the ghost world. But while they're in that room, the Order of the Phoenix comes to the rescue. Mad Eye's there, Lupin, Tonks, Kingsley, Sirius. And there's this really cool fight, and this is really the first time you see a bunch of wizards getting ready to throw down. You get to see the kids from Dumbledore's army implementing the stuff that they've been learning all year. And you get to see all these awesome older wizards in action. You see Harry and Sirius fighting Lucius Malfoy. That's all really cool. And then Bellatrix ends up killing Sirius. Now the whole Sirius death scene, it's a little weird. In the movie, Bellatrix hits Sirius with a killing curse, and then he gets hit by it, and he just kind of stands there for a second until he starts floating away through the veil. Which doesn't make a whole lot of sense because in Goblet of Fire, when Wormtail hit Cedric with the killing curse, Cedric went flying. In the book, Bellatrix and Sirius are dueling. Bellatrix hits Sirius with some sort of curse. It's kind of assumed that it's a stunning curse, and that's the thing that knocks Sirius back through the veil. Granted, when I first read the book, I was a little confused on the whole thing because Sirius just disappears through the veil, and you're just like, is he dead? Because it wasn't a killing curse, it was just a regular stunning curse. So in the movie, they get a little more to the point. It just creates some continuity issues. Heck, even the video game just had Bellatrix hit Sirius with a stunning spell and knock him through the veil. So I mean, why couldn't the movie have done that? I'm not really sure. So on one hand, I like how they did it, and on another hand, I don't like how they did it. But anyways, the reaction to Sirius's death is really sad, really tragic. You see Harry just like screaming, crying, Lupin's trying to hold him back. But then after that, you see the throwdown you've been waiting to see for this entire series. You see Dumbledore fighting Voldemort. It's a really cool scene, and you really get the magnitude of what's happening. You get the sense that these are two of the biggest wizards that have ever lived, and they're facing off fire, spells, glass, it's just flying everywhere. But the scene after that, and this is a word I don't use often, but the scene after the fight, that is a brilliant scene. For me, this possession scene, this is really the climax of the movie. So Voldemort starts possessing Harry. Voldemort's possessing Harry. He's really just warping his brain around. And there's this cool scene when Harry's on the ground. He looks up at Dumbledore, and he has like Voldemort's eyes, and he just goes, You've lost, old man. All of the inner turmoil that Harry's been dealing with for the whole movie, it's just coming to a head. And through this entire movie, Harry's just feeling very dark and angry. Yeah, that's called puberty, Harry. But it's just compounded more because he has this dark wizard twisting into his head, and he has this fear that he's becoming like Voldemort. And Dumbledore has this great line in the scene when he tells Harry, "It isn't how you are like, it's how you are not. And the thing that pulls Harry back to the light side is he reflects on the fact that he has friends. He has a comfort in Ron and Hermione. That is the friendship that carries this entire series. And love in Harry Potter, it's one of those things, it's just like in our world, love can't really be explained. And in the magical world, it transcends life and death. It's something that no magical spell can beat. And Voldemort, who does not have that love or friendship, he's ultimately the weak one. It's a great scene. I think it's even better than it is in the book. And then after that, Fudge sees Voldemort in the Ministry, so now Fudge realizes Voldemort is back. Everyone believes Harry and Dumbledore now. Umbridge gets kicked out of Hogwarts. And the movie has a really nice quiet scene, kind of like the way Goblet of Fire ended. They're all walking back to the train to go home, and Harry realizes that they have something that Voldemort doesn't have. And that is that friendship and that loyalty that he battled Voldemort off with. In the end, Order of the Phoenix is my least favorite Harry Potter movie because I do feel like there were just so many missing opportunities from the book, as well as the fact that because this is such a psychological battle, the book has that advantage that it's really able to get into Harry's head because you're able to read what Harry's thinking. In the movie, you don't have that luxury, so it's harder to really get into that psychological battle. But I do really like the fact that these kids are thrown into the adult world. It's the first real time you get to see wizards fighting wizards with spells and magic, and it's the start of this awesome rebellion that's going to carry on into Half-Blood Prince and Deathly Hallows. So even though this is my least favorite, I still think that Order of the Phoenix is a good movie. And if you're watching the Harry Potter series, you kind of have to watch this one, so check it out. But if you guys have seen Order of the Phoenix, let me know what you think of it down in the comments. And thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, you can click subscribe and check out some of my other videos, and I'll catch you guys next time.